Hello, it's John Baker from the Hovells Creek Landcare Group. We've been running a linking paddock tree project for the last 3 years, and we've got a few new members, and so in this video I want to show you how we've been making our tree guards cut out of big rolls of tree mesh. And here we're in sheep country, so we're using rolls of mesh that's 1200 high. Of course, if you've got cattle or cattle and sheep, you would be using the 1650 high rolls of mesh. And we're cutting 12 guards out of each roll. The gear I'm using a pair of bolt cutters. Some people do use an angle grinder. Frankly, I don't feel very safe with that. And of course, you really need mains power. I've got my tape for marking out. I've got my grip vice grippers here. Pre-cut tie wires to tie the guards, and my sledge and my post to hold down the other end. And you'll see I've already undone the roll and tied one end down. So now I'm going to start rolling it out. Move the wedge, and I do this on a hill because I find that makes life much easier. Otherwise, it's quite hard work down at the far end. Now look, I've rolled out the mesh, put a post in at the far end to hand it down, run out of tape. The rolls of mesh are 27.5 meters long. We get 12 guards out of them, so it's about 2.35 long for each section we cut. And that gives us a diameter of 0.7 of a meter. Now I'm actually doing this in our sort of country garden. We're actually putting these up on the hill, but it's very windy today, so there's a huge problem with the microphone. Normally I like to do it on site because then you're not having to carry the guards a lot. Whereas of course this way we're going to have to cart them up the hill. Other thing is, it's now mid-March. I like to get this cut up and positioned on site before we start planting, so that then when you get good rain for planting, you're not wasting your time cutting up guards, carting them, etc. They're all on site, and in fact you've even been able to position them where you want them. So what I'm going to do now is start marking this out, and I've actually got on my bolt cutters here the distances: 2.4, 4.7, 7.1, 9.5, 11.9, 14.2, etc. So all I do initially is do 2 cuts, and I do them up against this lower line of wire. So that's the one at 2.4. We're doing another one now at 4.7. Carry on now, 7.1, and just go down and put a couple just to mark our cut. I've marked it all out into the lengths. I used a tape, but of course some people count the squares. Some people cut a piece of stick 2.35 meters long and use that. Some people mark it out with a marker pen, etc. I just put a couple of cuts. Now I'm going along. I've done a couple here, and I cut right across. You'll notice I'm cutting down against one of these cross wires, always on the same side, and I leave the middle 2 wires uncut, and that's to stop the whole thing coming undone. And we'll then just cut those at the end. So there we are. There's 2 in the middle. Move on to the next one, go across here, and again just leave 2 in the middle. I've now gone the full length of the mesh, cut all across except I've left the 2 middle strands. Now I'm going to cut it up into lengths, and what I tend to do is I tend to stand with a foot on either side, cut it like that, and then let that one just spring up. Walk up this one watching the thing doesn't get you behind you. Again, cut, cut, and just let that one spring up. Walk up again, cut, cut, and then walk up again. And now fabricating the guards, and you basically just get it like this, bend the top over those long lengths, and you see I'm getting it 2 distances. That keeps it nice and round. Put your vice grips on, twitch your tie wire round, and then bend it back inside so the loose ends aren't out to poke you or somebody else, perhaps a sheep going past. Vice grips on, twitch the wire round, bend the wire back in, vice grips on. These vice grips make a huge difference. I've had a few years doing it without vice grips, and let me tell you, it's much harder. Okay, the only other thing to say is that these long legs here, some people actually get a pair of pliers and bend them back. Now that's fine in the short term, it makes a very strong guard, but somebody was telling me the other day that if you can't then lift the guard off the tree when you want to remove it, you actually have to undo the guard. A lot of work having to get your pliers out and straighten all of these. This is why 3 tie wires, I think, are the way to go. That's of course all ready to be positioned for where the tree is going to go. And as I said earlier, I prefer to fabricate these actually on the site. Then you're not doing a lot of cartage, because I can only get 5 of these on my ute. And so, you know, it's quite a few trips. Whereas if you just take the roll to where you're doing it and make them all there, you can then just walk and lay them out. Well, I hope that run through of how to make mesh tree guards was helpful. Obviously, I'm targeting people who've not done it before, but of course, people who've done it before, there are tricks to pick up. I'll be honest, I've learned a lot from other people, and what I've gone through today was based on that and my own experience. It's not such a big job either. Took me about an hour from actually starting rolling the mesh out, measuring it, cutting it, and fabricating them. So, you know, don't be overawed by the task. If you're not a member of the Hovells Creek Landcare Group, I'll just mention that we do have a website, and there's quite a lot of resources on the website on paddock tree planting, so you might want to have a look at those. And there is also another YouTube video on actually planting paddock trees. Cheers.